All right, welcome back. So what a year we had in 2015, and the political temperatures have been heating up since then. This is a very important year as well in the build-up to the 2017 elections. We have two by-elections coming up as well, and so the political temperatures are up, and we want to find out what is the forecast in terms of politics and other matters of governance as well, and policy in the country. And so we want to we have Mutegi Njau, who is hosting a panel. We have Dr. Peter Kagwanja, who is the CEO of the Africa Policy Institute, and Barak Muluka, who is also an analyst as well, who will be giving us their thoughts and their views as well. And we invite your thoughts, views, suggestions as well on Twitter. The hashtag to use is Power Breakfast. That hashtag again on Twitter is Power Breakfast, and the number to use for SMSs is 22422. I'll tell you that number again, 22422. Your views, comments, and suggestions are important to us. Send them in, and we'll be able to float them to the panel. Mutegi?
Welcome, gentlemen. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Senior. How are you?
Very fine, thank you.
Good to see you.
Now we want to look at the politics of the coming year. You have seen the analysis in the press during this end of the year, and you look party after party. I mean the main two of them, the Jubilee and the CORD. And Jubilee Professor, they are forming a new party called JP.
JP, yes. Yeah.
What is the prospect of that party? Because North Rift is having problems with it.
It is likely to have some teething problems, like all formations that are coming from, kind of amalgamation. Take it, for example, that you want to amalgamate all the land in Embu or in Muranga under one title. The first thing is that people are used to localized autonomies, and therefore they will resist being put in a bigger basket. But the benefits of the bigger basket will also be marketed as benefiting everyone. So there are likely to be resistance, but I think the key issue here is that the core principles of the coalition, that is President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto, are comfortable with the idea of a merger. Therefore, and majority of the people saying yes or no are the people they brought into their own formations, because the main parties within Jubilee Coalition is URP and TNA. So it's a question of how do we bring them together.
Yeah, but you know as well as I do that it will not work. I'll explain why it will not work. You see, when you come out with this kind of monolithic formations, what you're doing is that you're going to lock out very many people who would also like to compete for space. So on the one hand, you have got the presidential candidate and his deputy, who are comfortable, as Professor says, with that arrangement. But then you also have got political aspirants all over the place, both those who are already in parliament and who are MCAs, and those who are outside who would like also to be part of the game. So once you say that it's only this outfit and nothing but this outfit, you are looking out very many people. And we know that our primaries are always very faulty. They are very flawed. And so there are people who want to participate. So they'll say, no, we are supporting the presidential campaign arrangement, but we would like the rest of the space to be left for us. So it will not work.
No, is that the case with Isaac Ruto and Governor Isaac Ruto and Munya?
I don't think it might be too early to prejudge what can and what cannot work at this juncture. I think it's good to pinpoint the challenges that are likely to face this kind of an idea. For example, Barak has mentioned rightly, and I agree with him, that the area to work on is that of internal democracy, and that does not allow talk about JP. It is also in CORD. Internal democracy meaning the processes through which these people, the parties nominate, with the understanding that in some areas, particularly the so-called core areas of political formations, nominations are as good as final elections. And therefore, if you don't make those processes transparent, JP faces the same challenge that faced the PNU before, where you nominate your own candidates, or candidates are nominated in processes that are deemed as fraud, but then you end up finding other people vying with alternative parties, because the constitution allows other parties to be formed in the region anyway. Then you have PNU with 43 seats instead of 101, because the rest of the 60 seats went to those who are popular but could not get nominated to the party. So the key issue here will be internal democracy of the party, and I think that's really a tall order for both CORD.
But that has happened even before. If for instance, they are not waiting for nominations. They are saying, Munya and Isaac Ruto, we don't want that. And the people, they have formed their own already.
And we have got the grain of history to learn from. That in 2007, for example, when President Mwai Kibaki was seeking re-election, there was that experimentation. They tried, one morning they wake up, they are saying, we're going to have the Alliance Party of Kenya, we're going to have New NAC Kenya, and they came up with so many of those things. In the end, we had PNU, and even PNU was a cocktail of little formations. Even the ODM, they tried, and ODM was perhaps the biggest thing that we ever saw in the post-KANU, post-NAC dispensation. But you still found number of little things that were also flowing into that ODM formation. So until such a time as we have got credible party primaries in this country, it's going to remain a huge challenge to come up and say we want one party. One party. First, a party is something that should be driven by some ideological orientation. And we are not seeing any ideological orientation in these formations, apart from these things being used as platforms for winning elections, and that is an end in itself.
I agree with you in the sense that there is need for ideology, and ideologies across the board. Now that, of course, will help us overcome the parochialism of ethnicity. Because in the absence of an overarching ideology, then you get ideologies which are defined by nationalism. And that is the major problem of the parties. I disagree with you that the ODM is the first formation. I think the real movement was NAC.
Well, I said in the post-NAC and post-KANU dispensation.
Post-NAC.
Yeah, so we are basically in agreement.
In agreement. But the essence of it is that political leaders are, it is within their mandate to decide how to reorganize their political formations.
And citizens within their mandate,
that's true,
to see whether they are going to plug in or not. And citizens here include those who aspire to compete for political office. So when you go to the CORD areas, for example, and you start saying we only want CORD and nothing else, you go to the Jubilee areas and you say there's going to be only Jubilee, you start sending shivers of fear among people who support you already, because you're looking at your competition against the other fellows at the top, but these people have also got localized competitions which give them cause to worry and therefore cause not to buy into your big idea.
That is true, but begin to look at it this way. Fragmentation of our political institutions is the root cause of most of our problems. If truth be told, ODM is essentially a Nyanza formation.
So it's not that fragmentation.
Yeah, that's what
the ethnicization.
That is the point. We are using a more diplomatic language to say.
I don't know.
But yeah,
I don't know whether CORD is or ODM is a Nyanza thing.
No.
We have members of parliament from other areas.
Sure. The same case you
Let's
say
talk
of
about the future of CORD now. That we have 3 core principles.
Yes.
What do you see as the future of CORD? In fact, in terms of nomination, how do they select their candidate? Because there are 3 of them saying we will be in the ballot paper.
One of them has already bolted, I think, and has started putting in place machinery that indicates that he clearly understands that he's going to be the flag bearer whether it's something that has been discussed internally and they have agreed that the one who has already bolted, and in this case we are talking about the former Prime Minister, is something that we wait and see. But if there's no consensus, internal consensus already, if they don't know something that we don't, if they know something that we don't know by this time, then I think they are going to have a huge challenge, and we are likely to see a repeat of the kind of situation that we saw in 2007 when Kalonzo Musyoka bolted. We saw it again in 2013 when people like Musalia Mudavadi bolted because there was no internal democracy.
I mean, let me start controversially by saying that I think the CORD's best chances are to try Moses Wetangula, because he's the only one who has never lost an election, and yes, he has never lost a presidential election because he has never been a candidate, a presidential candidate.
So why would that make him better?
Because he has never lost. There is this tag of serial losers. Kalonzo has lost once. Raila has lost 4 times, I think.
Kibaki lost a number of times. Uhuru lost a number of times.
Well, we are talking about the best chance. We're not
Kibaki lost a number of times. And Professor, when you use the statement lost, it's a game of semantics again. For example, in 2007, none other than Johannes Kriegler told us that it was impossible to say that Raila won or lost. And we also know that there's a difference between what sits in the ballot and what gets into the public.
You've read more books than perhaps more books than myself about politics, and you know rigging as an ideology. In order to keep on legitimizing yourself as having a legitimate candidate every other time in a situation where you might be accused of being a serial loser. Rigging becomes a very good ideology.
Okay, do you see seriously yourself, Professor? Yes. That Wetangula becoming a presidential candidate in CORD?
I say the best chance for CORD in order to overcome this blemish.
The parameters
let me say the following. That, first, the former Prime Minister is head and shoulder above the other two.
Yeah.
Reason being, he's a senior, leader in this country. He has also tried before, and as we've said before in other spaces, he has been an incumbent.
And he's campaigning every day.
And he has been an incumbent. 2, when you assess the political capacities in this country, he has the largest, political capacity,
which he could also use, as he has done in the past, to say Professor Tosha. Sure. Yes. So he has huge capacity. Therefore, it's not even the language of him having bolted. He has simply activated his huge capacity. He's not bolted. He's running ahead of. He has activated his political capacity. When you look at the political capacity of Wiper or Ford Kenya, I mean, really, and this is the oldest party in the race, ODM, because you are a PTNA and newcomers in the game compared with ODM, which is the base of CORD.
Generally about political parties in this country. Yeah. There have been serious damaging commentaries written, particularly by one Professor Makau Mutua, considering Jubilee and CORD as if they are the same. They are the same. There is no difference between each and other. And even the leaders.
We need to get a little bit more active in our thinking to say that there is a very, very clear ideological distinction, only that is never captured. If you decode the language of CORD stroke ODM, you just decode the language. The key word that comes out is equitable distribution. And equitable distribution ideologically stems from the socialist thinking, meaning people need to be treated is equal in terms of access to resources, in access to the... So distributionism is actually the core ideology.
And then Jubilee?
For Jubilee, every day they're talking about development, do investment and this. That productionism, you're producing, you're accumulating, has its root in capitalism per se. And when you come to this, to the ideologies, welfareism is normally brought in as a way of making it human. But so essentially, we have ideologies here, only that Kenyans refuse to define. As far as I'm concerned, and I have said this before, ODM is distributionist. It is good old socialism. TNA, URP are the productionists.
I don't think
the old good capitalism. Full stop.
Okay. I don't think so. I don't think it's capitalism. It's prebendalism, which I have talked about before.
I did come with a dictionary.
Professors like this one here are the ones who tell us about things like prebendalism, where you practice the political economy of exclusion, that the state is itself formed for purposes of enrichment of those who are privileged to get to the center of power, and they have around them people who are going to help them to realize that goal. The entire architecture, design, function, performance of the state is about extraction and exploitation of resources by an exclusive few who are privileged, and they will pay lip service to things like national unity. They'll pay lip service to things like fighting corruption. They'll pay lip service to things like
Barak is not what
governance.
Is that not the ideology of socialism which gave rise to communism, that if we have to have everybody having everything, we've got to put
no, they are not
in the hands of the people.
About giving a few people opportunities, giving people free things. It's about creating opportunities for everybody, that we are on an equal platform in terms of equal access to development, equal access to employment, equal access to lawful.
But who ensure equal access
of resources? Government.
I thought we under constitution and devolution.
Yeah.
For purposes of that.
So we are talking about ideology. Let's look at the motherboard of these ideologies. You are saying equal access, equal this. Where is the role of the private sector?
Yeah,
the private individual.
Even the private sector and the private individual must have fair and equal opportunity. Look, if we are coming to you and we are telling you bring 3 tenders, you're one individual. We saw that within the National Youth Service domain the other day, that the same fellows have brought in tenders, 6 of them, which nobody else knows about. Now, that is the kind of equity that we are talking about. Place it there, give everybody the opportunity to compete equally. We are not saying give people free things around. I think that is extremely simplistic.
But Barak, the problem here is that we are confusing a hot dog, which is a quick snack, and a dog, which is a very dangerous canine. The issue of the issue of the 3. The tenders and tendering is in a different sector, which is criminality. In this country, we
are having a felonious state.
So let's stay true to our ideologies. COD, stroke ODM, is distributionist. It doesn't care much about where the cake was baked. It's about the equality of the cake. 2, on this other side, you have the productionist, people producing, but sometimes they forget that when you produce, you need to give everybody a chance.
It's about eating. It's about eating.
Production.
And it's about excluding everybody else from eating. You really don't care where it has come from. And this goes right back to the first state, the Kenyatta state, that we saw the state in terms of the cake, national cake, and we are talking about the distribution of the national cake without talking about how it has been baked. And then when you look at now the current dispensation, in fact the Moi dispensation went the same way, the Kenyatta way. The Kibaki dispensation was a little different, perhaps even significantly different. That developmental paradigm that you talk about, we can attribute to the Moi Kibaki dispensation. The Uhuru Kenyatta William Ruto dispensation is first about eating, second about eating, and third about eating, and it has got an omnivorous eating orientation.
But the eating is uniform. In fact, even the opposition in its very disadvantaged position is, evidence is coming out that it's also eating. So what hope does Kenya have?
That's what Makamoto was saying.
Yes, what hope does Makamoto? No, I don't agree with him that they don't have ideology. I agree.
Saying that if you are a thief, the thing you have done is not made any lighter by saying that so and so is also
sure. That's why we need to
CORD is stealing, and I don't doubt that there are people in CORD who have stolen. That does
land, huge amounts of land.
Jubilee justification for stealing, because they're the ones who are there. In fact, they have got the instruments of state, including instruments of arresting all the thieves. So let Jubilee arrest the thieves in CORD and the thieves.
Is it not arresting? Is it not arresting when you have sacked a third of the cabinet?
I have not seen.
No, a third in 2015.
The people who are sacked. Some of them have been cleared. We must also, Professor, learn to distinguish between drama and reality. And I think there's a lot of drama sometimes.
Melodrama. Who need to be behind bar and is not behind bar? Just a question.
Behind bar.
Just a question.
How much money have we returned from the stolen monies?
Have we proven how much money has been stolen? I'm not trying to say it was not stolen.
The president told us.
Apart from the figures that are floated in the papers. Like, do you know, Barack, if now I say you have stolen 100 million, you'll now that will be a debate in the media that the famous publisher.
If there's cause,
this is what
cause for people to believe that I have stolen. Let there be that public. Let there be that public debate. None other than the head of state has told us that we have recovered, I don't know how many hundreds of millions, which had been stolen and stashed away. We have not been told who the thief was. Hundreds of millions of shillings seated in a bank account offshore. Obviously, there's a person who is known by name and by face, and we would expect that that person should be in court. You don't just come and dramatize and tell us that some money has been returned. Where is that money sitting? We are talking about the Eurobond here, and people come with some vague sounding gabble, and they say we have accounted. We are asking, where are the projects? And I think, Professor, this is a very serious issue, Senior, that we are not going to sweep things under the carpet by saying so-and-so has also stolen. If that so-and-so has also stolen, please get hold of him. Don't use that as a bait to tell them to be politically correct and so that you can forgive them. Arrest them, jail them. We need to...
Let me say this first. Corruption is a problem in this country, and corruption may bring us down. Let's start there. But then move on and say that our approach to corruption is highly politicized. In other words, we are opportunistically taking advantage of this national scourge to make political mileage, which is wrong.
I agree with you.
Which is wrong. Now, how should we go about it? Barack, if you know Professor Kagwanja has stolen so much, first and foremost, for the Kenyan people, you're the first witness. Why don't you go and register a statement to that effect? Two, we get the DPP to arrest me. All these other institutions and whatever we are creating are simply hiding the truth. Corruption is crime. Full stop. It is theft, and it is theft of public property. Why should somebody go in public and so on instead of just pushing it there? Then we start asking, are our mechanisms of trying people or prosecuting people going right? But there must be somebody. Let me give you an example. Somebody somewhere in my home county was beaten publicly as people watched.
For stealing?
No. He was beaten in part of the political differences. And when he doesn't report to the police, he doesn't write a statement, he doesn't write anything. How can prosecution be made?
If the police are also there, they should arrest them. I mean, it's a fray, it's a question of...
Let's go back to the subject. We are talking about corruption. Let's talk about the economy. The government, the other day, introduced some taxes, and there are more even taxes, cut taxes. Mwananchi Wanjiru, she is down there
yes.
suffering. I've seen when I drive around Nairobi a lot of people walking. I can see newspaper reports like today's paper saying about the stock exchange, how terrible it is, and the banks, and what is the prospect for the economy this next year, according to you?
I think the economy is doing well. We have just the endemic problem which Barack talked about, the distribution. And this is not uniquely Kenyan. I lived in South Africa for 10 years. And the chorus that I heard every year was, you know, all this development that's going on in this great country must percolate down to the ordinary people. Our economy today is driven by two forces. The first is ICT, that is technology. The second is infrastructure, which is also driving other areas. When you look at those two sectors and their capacity to distribute wealth, it's in employment as workers on these railways and roads, or it is in terms of your small kiosk where you're selling the telephones and so on. If you compare that, for example, with the tea or coffee as the driver of the economy, tea will employ everyone, coffee will employ everyone, and so on and so forth. So agriculture has given way to ICT and infrastructure. That has given us a skewed economy, which globally is rated as, Kenya is rated as the third fastest growing economy in the world today. It's also rated as the fastest expanding in Africa. But the question being asked is, where is this wealth going? It is because it's going to the people who are involved in these two sectors.
If that is happening, why are we taxing water?
What do you know, Senior, statistics...
Taxation is an issue.
Statistics and confounding idiom. That is what we keep getting. And George Orwell talked about this very many years ago. Statistics, memorandum, and minutes and stuff like that. And he says it looked like the farm had grown and the economy of the farm had grown without making the animals themselves any richer. And this keeps on repeating itself. We hear all the time about the economy. It has grown by 6.5. At some point it was almost growing by 10 point something. We don't see it being reflected in the collection of revenue. At the time that we are being told the economy has really grown, we are also being told that there have been some very disturbing shortfalls in the collection of revenue. Either the revenue collection mechanisms are completely flawed so that they are not able to catch up with the production of wealth in the private sector that Professor is talking about, or we are not being told the truth. We want to look at the reality that not so long ago the cabinet secretary in charge of the National Treasury was telling us that the economy was in a crisis. And a few days later somebody senior to him said, no, the economy is not in a crisis. Then 3 days later he also said, no, the economy is not in a crisis. But you could see his body language that he didn't believe in the things that he was saying. We have introduced new taxes everywhere to try and make up for those shortfalls. It's an indication that something is awfully wrong. The unemployed army keeps on growing every day. Last year we disgorged I don't know how many more hundreds of thousands into the economy, and we must...
Let's get two objective situations here on the table. First, it is undeniable that this economy is expanding. The World Bank has...
without the benefits...
I'm putting the two objectives. Let me put the two objectives down. It is a truth that this economy is expanding. This is according to the World Bank. This is according to IMF. It's okay. It's according to IMF. There is if you want to trust the Africans, there is the Mo Foundation, which is just across the door in Sudan, and the Mo Foundation rated Kenya as the fastest growing economy. That's one objective. The second objective is that the wealth, expansion of wealth, which we see in the growth of supermarkets. You've seen Nairobi is like a construction industry where skyscrapers are coming up every day. But the question is, the objective situation is that this wealth may not be reaching Wanjiku down there. That is undeniable. So I think that's the challenge, not only of Jubilee, but also of CORD and ODM, to ensure that there are mechanisms and situations on the ground to ensure that the wealth percolates. It is a criticism we made of the Kibaki administration. We said, yes, it grew. And by the way, Barack, the truth of the matter is that Kenya economy has never grown beyond 7%. And it only grew 7% 1 year.
At some point, somebody
that's a lie.
Was even saying 8 points.
No, it didn't. It was only in 2000. I mean, in 2005, 2006 when it grew by 7%. But beyond that, it has been 6. In 2007, 2008, during our madness, it went down again to almost 1 point something percent to 2%. So the economy needed to grow to 10%. At the same time, this economy needed to be made in a manner that there is the percolation of that wealth to the rest of the society, which means decentering the economy from total reliance on infrastructure and ICT, because as long as it continues to do that, and that is what is contributing globally to what we are calling the 1%, 1 billion poor, 1 billion poor and 1% rich. So it's a global problem, and the Pope talked about it when he was here.
What do you say of the fact that Ipsos found that majority of Kenyans think the country is going down?
Ipsos.
I don't believe in Ipsos.
Opinion polls in Kenya have had their own problems. I don't want to get there because I also do opinion polls as a researcher. But the truth of the matter is,
you don't believe
opinion polls can only be a guide. They cannot be a source of scientific precision. That's why Obama brought Ned Silver in 2012. If he had to win, he had now to overrule opinion polls and go to what we call social analysis, which says if you go to Nyanza and ask which is the most popular party, you are going to be told it is CORD. You go to Central Kenya, go to Nyeri, and you ask which is the most popular party, you are going to take this TNA. Because socially, people are disaggregated. So who said, which population did Ipsos Synovate in?
I've had problems with Ipsos Synovate, and I've had the opportunity to have a one-on-one with Dr. Tom Wolf himself, and questioned the methodology, because you know that the outcome of any research is as good as the methods that have been used, sampling procedures, the testing procedures, the analytical procedures, and so on and so forth. That said and done, I think we may not quite outright dismiss opinion polls because they talk about public perceptions, and perceptions are very important. If you have a well-designed survey, it ought to give us results that we can believe in.
Anyway, do you believe there will be a referendum this year? There are calls. One, Moses Kuria says, Punda amechoka. God says, give him whatever.
More money, distribution.
Exactly, and Jubilee also have theirs. So do you see us having a referendum? One or two?
From where I sit, I can say two things. First, that there's going to be intensified pushing for a referendum. But whether that will happen is highly questionable because of even the periodization of the various stages and steps that the process must go through. Saying also that we are on the home stretch to the next general election, it's very unlikely that it's going to happen this year.
I agree with Barack on that account, but also to say that the call for referendum was not necessarily intended to bring change or to bring a referendum. It's again for political gain. So ultimately, CORD is going to score heavily in terms of using the language of referendum to mobilize and to popularize itself in the country. I think Jubilee will also try to counter the same. So in other words, the referendum may not take place, but the political temperatures are going to be heightened by the call for
What do you say about CIC? When they were leaving, they said that we reduce members, the seats for parliament, senators, MCAs, the same call by Moses Kuria.
The truth of the matter is that as a country, we are running one of the largest elite class and financing it very heavily. The truth of the matter is that it is the cost of the compromise. Remember, we have reduced cabinet ministers from 49 to now 20. Between 2008 and 2013, we had not just 44 cabinet ministers, we had 99 assistant ministers. At the same time, we were running 2 governments. You went to Prime Minister's office, which you had the privilege to go to. It was a government in itself. And when you moved to Kibaki's side, it was a government in itself. Thank the people of Kenya, because they have borne these burdens for all these years. I guess what we need to do is to expand our wealth. We'll be able to pay our elite, and Wajiko will get their due.
I don't think we are ever going to realize a smaller government. We are in a bind. We have locked ourselves in, because first you'd have half of the county assemblies endorsing that thought. If they don't endorse it, the motion dies there.
Yes.
And they are never going to endorse anything that sacks them. So it's never going to
not going to take place.
Gentlemen, we are running out of time, and my producer says we stop there. We hope we had more time to discuss. We talked about the forthcoming by-elections, Burundi crisis, and also the integration with East Africa, but we have no time. Have a good day.
Thank you.